The poetry of the universe is never silent. Kentemba reminds us, right? And Ben Okri also reminds us that people are only as healthy as the stories they tell themselves. What is your story? And our story cannot always be, the past left our hearts rotting in that dirty cage. Africa. We don't, hey, this is what has happened. However, though, since we are a people of remembering, we are a people of memory, it is through memory that we can begin to, it is through art, rather, that we can begin to remember. And it is through memory that we can begin to re kgobokanya kaofela bo rona, ka bo rena, ka se rena, a tshilwe ke mang? Tau, right? A tshilwe mogolo. Now, for me, a monologue is always a dialogue with the word, and Mxolisi Nyezo is one of my loudest yet quiet, silent gems of this dialogue that we seem to be not wanting to have, and Abraham Tro brings it out so nice in Are. It all begins with thunder in the middle of the road. It begins with people bleeding from the intestine. It begins with one statement, with the scratch of one pen. It begins with the smell of death dying, with people of all sizes in every epoch shouting from the grave. It begins with the man in the personnel department. It begins with the smell of frying eggs, the brief passage and elongation reflux of time. On the contrary, it begins with the promise of peace in the avalanche of lies. And it could be all these things as it yawns in the morning with the blunder bearing on us, with the emergence of summer, the fire of history closes its doors behind us, and sunk geniuses walk about aimlessly through the air. And it all begins, and it will never cease. It begins with the promise of peace in the avalanche of lies. Now, when Fanon speaks about decolonization as a violent phenomenon, look, decolonization, because of the term, does not necessarily mean government or imperialism or systems, right? Especially systems of power or like the structures of establishment. Or I want to talk. No, not. Let's keep it simple. What does decoloniality mean ultimately? What is a violent phenomenon about it? Let's say all your life you've been told you are the firstborn, and all your life you've been knowing yourself as the black man who was the firstborn, right? And as such, it turns out that you are not the firstborn. Everything else you've been told, taught to believe, taught to know, all of a Sunday before the Monday comes, before the Monday blues rather, it comes crashing down, right? In the sense, shit, who exactly am I? If I'm not this, where am I, right? Now, to be shown or to come to the truth about who you are. Nnete ya gago e ka reng o ntse o sa itsebi and o ntse o mathela kgakala. I mean, there's so many analogies one can use to actually go tlhalosa taba ya decoloniality, grand wa bona. Ha re bua ka decoloniality re bua ka eng gantle wa bona. E ka se re ke bua ka Setswana so be ke re decoloniality and you think gore I am decolonized. Oh no, bullshit. No, ma-Africa no emaganyane. Ke diketso, ke menyetlo, ke izenzo, motho ke motho ka diketso gantle wa tlhaloganya. And diketso tsa rona ke bona ke tsona tse bontshang gantle gore lengano le leng ka mo tlhaloganyong le sa le teng or not. Just because motho o bua Sesotho le Setswana, wa bona ka re se tlhapilenyana, no, ke a itshosetsa. O ska wa ra itshosetsa re ba bangata. Wa tlhaloganya. However though, gae ke a go tseba gore ke ko kae. Ke a tseba ke belegwa ke mang, ke a tseba gore ke ngwana mang, ke tlhaga kae, ke ana eng, ke eme kae, wa bona? And nneteng teng ga yona go a baba, wa bona? Ga e ya gore if we can really look at decoloniality from a space of the white consciousness and the black consciousness coming to this table and having white people in this country ultimately. Okay, apology, okay, I see the apology, but coming to the table to actually know that they need us as a people to survive. And until that is actually realized, until that actually happens, we'll always have logheads. South Africa is a unique place. It's a very unique place. 94 happened to be ground zero, where such a thing as a black man ruling over the white man has never been heard before, except only in the time of Musa Mansa. Now, when we talk about decoloniality, Africa, it took over 100 years for us to find ourselves in this perpetual sense of mental slavery. It can't take 30 years for us to unshackle ourselves. It cannot take 30 years for us to unshackle ourselves. There's a lot that still needs to be worked on. And so it's imperative that we understand exactly what are we talking about when we use these terms. Decoloniality, or to come to the light, to let your light shine. Nina Simone are, to sleep in peace when day is done. That's what I mean, right? To sleep in peace when day is done. Mudim, to be able to walk down the street and not have a policeman look at me like I am a suspect. That's what I'm talking about, right? And unfortunately, it's the mentality katlaring. An alien. How can an African be alien in his own soil? We take the map of Africa, we put it on the wall and say, what do we all have in common? It's the ground we stand on, honestly. Now, with the white counterparts we have in South Africa, the Afrikaners, the English, the Caucasians, we cannot continue to be apologetic about these people who live with us, these people who now are so-called people because they have companies to saying mining, blah blah blah. They changed from Lonmin to another name of the thing. That doesn't mean anything else, man. Really. How are we able to live with each other? How are we able to actually work with each other? A people that works together, walks together, dreams together, right? As Steve Biko once said, when in a new South Africa, there shall be no black people, there shall be no white people, there shall only be people. And as such, we cannot be waking up to an avalanche of lies every time. The parliament, every government is a crime scene. That is a fact. Now, what is actually even more painful is to live with people that don't want to see you as their own, or actually they don't want to be part of you, and yet they want to claim this country as their own. Now we must understand these things that we are using. Cabral, I'm gonna leave it here with Cabral saying that culture is always changing, always moving. However, though, it is our rituals and our traditions that teach us how to combat the times. Education is a product of culture. Skia Mpatlele once said, Dadeskia once said, we must be able to teach our white people that they cannot exist without us, in as much as we cannot exist without them too. If we are talking about people, ultimately, and we must decolonize the white consciousness, ultimately, because right now there's something terribly wrong with South Africa. This place we call South Africa. Mara, there is a space for us all at the rendezvous of victory. Hallelujah.